for your survey.
Thanks, Francesco, and yes, nice to see you all here. Thanks for coming. So just a few words from me to begin with before we pass over to the panelists. So, of course, carbon storage and the transition to renewable energies are essential elements of Europe's net zero goals. And to achieve the level of carbon storage we need, we have to have a carbon storage industry, which, of course, the Commission has been working very hard to achieve through the Industrial Carbon Management Plan and the Net Zero Industry Act. But as Francesco mentioned, of course, it still will not happen without large investment in the geological data and knowledge to know where we have storage capacity. And similarly, if we are going to accelerate deployment of geothermal energy projects, a fundamental requirement is that the same geological data and knowledge of the deep subsurface is available. So that's why we're here, to launch the initial phase of the Pan-European Atlas of Sustainable Geoenergy Capacities, which has been developed by the European Geological Survey organisations through the Geological Service for Europe project, the GSEU project. And this is the initial phase, also as Francesco mentioned, but nonetheless, it is an important and significant step. But it doesn't stand alone. There is also a lot that's led to this point. The GeoEnergy Atlas builds on the earlier work of the CO2 Stop and Histories projects, and this version will also be further built on during the course of the GSEU project. And already, using this work as a base, a proposal is being built for a carbon storage investable carbon storage atlas to answer the Horizon Europe call that was published last week. And this work will take this step that we've made further towards market. And again, the Geological Survey organisations are very much involved in developing that proposal for an investable atlas and in fact leading that work. And how is all of this going to be delivered? Both the current GeoEnergy Atlas and the future investment atlas through the European Geological Data Infrastructure, which is also an initiative of Eurogeo Surveys and the Geological Surveys of Europe. And it's also the product of more than a decade of work up to this point. The National Geological Surveys are, of course, also central to elements, key elements of implementation of the Net Zero Industry Act, which requires the geological data from decommissioned petroleum projects to be made available to support a carbon storage industry. And that data is, of course, also relevant to geothermal deployment. And who do we have who is going to handle and interpret and archive and make available all of that data and knowledge? Again, the Geological Survey organisations have a central role there. These converging efforts and the huge amount of data that is expected to be managed and understood, and the collaborative efforts to level up our knowledge across borders, across Europe, to meet our net zero goals, how do we bring this all together? And our answer is a geological service for Europe. What you see being delivered today is a piece of a larger story of how the geological surveys can underpin these clean industrial markets with necessary geological data and expertise. We need a sustainable EU-funded geological service for Europe to deliver these and other crucial services after the GSEU project comes to an end in 2027. And we're ready to deliver it. So congratulations to everyone involved in getting us this far, and then I will hand back to others to continue. But I would like to now invite our panelists up to the stage. I'm sorry. I'm not going to do that yet. I'm first of all going to pass over to Maayke, who's leading the work package. Thanks.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you all for coming. We're very excited to be presenting to you the Storage Atlas. But first of all, I would like to make a special thank you to my coordination team, who's been working very hard, and a special mention to Paula Canteli from IGME, who has been heading the creation of the maps. So without further ado, we can go to the next slide. Let's see if it works. It's not working. Nope. Yep. So the CO2 storage atlas. I am aware that not all of you are geologists here, so yeah, it's not working. There we go. So a little bit of context for the storage atlas. There is 3 layers, and as you can see, in order to store something, you need a trap, which is the red part. This could be created by a top layer that seals it off so that there can be no leakage. This can be done in a couple of ways. This could be a structural trap or a fluid trap. Anyway, you can store anything there, including CO2. These traps are part of units, and they are usually surrounding the traps, and these units are part of a larger formation, geological formation. So the layers that we're presenting here are tied to that. So we'll start off with the larger units, so the storage formation. This is the map. As you can see, there is also some data in Iceland, for example, but in the north there's a big player missing, which is Norway, which has a lot of offshore storage. However, we've created this map to be able to also incorporate data that's already out there, for example, from Sodier, who is granted us data to add to the layer, which we're working on now. But we've based it on CO2 stop, and 6 countries are added to the data from that database. If we go to the next slide, please. It's not easy to tell, but in the units you can see in Iceland there's a couple of dots, which is storage through mineralization, which is added as a new technique to store CO2, which is permanent. It's unique to Iceland, unfortunately, so far. And we've also have a layer of the traps, which is the next slide. And as you can see, a pan-European map of the traps is very hard to see. We've tried to classify the traps with the storage readiness levels. And if you go to the next slide, please, you'll see that they have different colors, which have different storage readiness. So we can indicate what needs to be done, which information is needed, or if we can start looking into actually developing a site. If you go to the next slide, you can see the CO2 storage atlas is based on the CO2 stop. And it's supposed to be a video, but it's not playing. Yeah, so we're very, very happy that we've added 6 countries. There's going to be also some updates from some partners as well. Other partners, such as Ukraine, for example, are involved in this project, and we're very happy they are. However, with the current situation in Ukraine, a lot of the data has been classified for now, but we're hoping to add that in the future. Then, unfortunately, it's not playing. I was hoping to see the comparison between the CO2 stop and our map. Is it coming? Good. Yep, so there you go. Like you can see in Norway, there's a lot of information that is not in the map yet, but we're gonna add that to it. We're also closely working with the JRC to overlay their surface data, as ours is subsurface, but it's not useful on its own. You need surface data as well to see, for example, what the transportation could do. So yeah, that's it for the CO2 storage data. Of course, GeoEnergy is not just storage, so I would like to give you a preview of the geothermal atlas that we're preparing. The first layers have been uploaded to the EGDI platform as well. These include thermal springs. Next slide, boreholes and wells, which is collaborative across the project. So it's not just for GeoEnergy, but also other subjects. And the last one is geothermal play types, which have been assigned a type of play. So where is the geothermal energy potential coming from? But we'll be working on some more layers for this atlas as well, and hopefully have a presentation of the complete atlas in the future. With that, I want to thank you all for your attention, and I guess I'll invite the panelists over for the discussion.
Thank you, Maayke. And before we jump into the discussion, everything that we do is published online, of course, open source. And Renata prepared a very nice room with a big screen. So if during the drinks you really want to touch the atlas, you really have a good chances now. And it's not a hope that we have the full atlas. We will have a full atlas at some point next year. Well, time to have a very good discussion. So I'm going to start with a couple of questions, but I strongly encourage every of you to ask many questions. So I'd like to invite on stage with me first Luca Giovannelli from the GRNI. Welcome, Luca. Then Daniel Kitscha from DG CLIMA. You can sit wherever you like, guys. Dražen Tumara from the GSEU. Welcome, Dražen. And last but definitely not the least, two persons that was really our key colleague in creating especially the CO2 storage, that is Ceri Vincent from BGS and Paula Canteli from IGME. Paula, you have to come this way, I had the feeling. I think you have one microphone each. And of course, we'll address all of you, but if a question is from Giovanni and Paula, you want to jump in at the answer at the end, the more interaction, the better. First, I would really like to start with our three colleagues from the Commission, Luca, Daniel, and Dražen. Why something like this is important from the work that you do in your DG?
I have to say that the availability of data is extremely important. We know from the industry that it's extremely important from deployment, but of course is very relevant for us too, because in order to define what are the priorities in research and innovation, we need to have a deep knowledge of the resources which are available in Europe. So it is important for us, it is important for all our stakeholders. I want to remind you that we have the set plan in which we have involved different structures of stakeholder, which defines the technology-specific objective for each technology. And it is very important now because we have seen over the last years that the priorities in geothermal energy have changed over time. The name of some of the stakeholders changed from deep geothermal to geothermal because of the increasing importance of geothermal for heating and cooling. And for this, let's say, more common use of geothermal energy, we need more data. We don't need only very sweet spot in Europe to have geothermal power, basically.
Yeah. Thank you, Giovanni.
Yeah, thanks for the question, and good afternoon, everyone. I work in DG CLIMA, so our focuses on how can we become net zero in the European Union. And it's very clear we need a lot more renewable energies, and therefore geothermal energy is an important part, together with solar, together with wind and other things. Also, we need to store electricity, which I think also sort of subsoil possibilities are very important. But we found in our recent climate modeling that that's not enough. We also need to reduce emissions by capturing CO2 and storing it geologically in underground storage sites. And I think we just had a very nice insight into what you have already done. And in that sense, in a way, from our point of view, we have to identify a very new capacity of the subsoil. So not nice things to extract, not nice things to mine, not nice things to use, but rather empty things to put stuff into. So pore spaces and potential storage sites. And this is maybe a lot less interesting from an economic point of view, from an investor point of view, which increases the importance of a project like the Atlas that you have done, because we need to sort of maybe invest a little bit more from the public side, from the data transparency side, so that investors would come to Europe and see where are the possibilities. And I'm happy to hand over to my colleague from the GRC, because it's not just finding potential storage sites, it's also hopefully finding them roughly where the emitters are, which we know very well. And with this, I hand over to my colleague Dražen.
Thank you, Daniel.
So first, to introduce myself, I'm working at the GRC, at the Energy Transition Insights for Policy Unit. Apologize there. So, okay, my unit, it has a long history when it comes to CCUS and CO2, CCUS and geothermal. For example, we started working on CCUS more than 20 years ago. I wasn't back then there, but my colleagues were. And they were also supervising the development of CO2 stop Atlas, the CO2 data set that was also used for this GeoEnergy Atlas. I'm working on CCUS, but I'm also working on geothermal. I'm primarily on CCUS, but geothermal, let's say I'm a geothermal enthusiast. So this publication of this atlas is really a good event for me, and I was looking forward to it. So what concretely I do? Last year, together with the publication of industrial carbon management strategy, we published one study on CO2 transport network, where we basically tried to optimize the future CO2 transport network in Europe. And what we had to use in this analysis, of course, CO2 emitters locations. Daniel already said we know it. That part of the analysis wasn't problematic. We know where the emitters are, but the problem is with CO2 storage locations and potential, the concrete numbers. And we used the available data back then, but they had a lot of gaps. They were the best we could find. We integrated from different sources, but they had a lot of gaps. And this CO2 storage potential data set helped us a lot, because we are now updating the analysis with the latest available data, and it already showed that we have a better data set, improved data set, and we are really thankful to colleagues for providing the data set slightly earlier than this launching event.
Thank you, Dražen. I'd like to move with Ceri now. So in the Atlas, there are a lot of really detailed data about rocks, from permeability, porosity, etc. Explain us a bit why those detailed information is needed for work at the Commission.
So is this working? So these data are needed to inform decisions by policymakers, by industrials, by energy majors, so that we can think about how we use the subsurface in the best way for a sustainable future, how we deliver on the carbon management plan, how we deliver on the Net Zero Industry Act. So we have lots of detailed data. It contains porosity, permeability, information on saline aquifers, information on depleted oil and gas fields. And this information is so important to support decisions about how we make best use of the subsurface. But it's also important to see what else is needed. So we mentioned the 3-tier database. The British Geological Survey designed this database to accommodate the fact that data is different from different countries. So we start with very basic data that we hope to have about all of the rocks. We start with depth, porosity, permeability, the very basic data. And we slowly work our way through the storage readiness levels as the sites become, as we understand more and more about these sites. And we show not only what data we have, but also what is left to be done, which is why we have the storage readiness level that was trying to communicate what work is left to be done. What do we have to do to deliver on the opportunities of the subsurface? And that 3-tier database helps us in this way too. So we start off with the formations with very basic data. We move on to the units that sit within the formations. And then we move on to the traps that sit within the units. So it's a 3-tier database, and that helps accommodate the different levels of data. And I think it's fantastic to see how much data that we have now, and how much of this detailed data and how much effort has gone in from the European Geological Surveys and their colleagues from other research institutes across Europe. There's been a huge effort in order to deliver these detailed data, which will help inform decision making.
Thank you, Ceri and Paula. So Dražen already mentioned the CO2 stop. Can you tell us a bit about the work and that has been done to update and improve and add country in the CO2 stop, and the role of the national surveys in this?
Thank you and hello, everybody. I'm really happy that today we can celebrate this launch of this first part of the Atlas, because just for starting, the Atlas is for CO2 storage, but also geothermal, hydrogen storage, and geological storage of energy. Now, in the 25, we are producing this first version of the CO2 storage atlas, and we will improve during 1 year, and the final one will be in 2026. And now also we have the first layer, the first potential for the deep geothermal, and the rest of the topics will be ready for 2026. So the final atlas with all the topics will be next year. For the CO2 storage, we have a start for the CO2 stop. That was the first atlas, an available atlas at European scale. And this idea of European scale is very important, because we need to understand that it's not a type of collage of what is done or different atlas for each country. We have created at European level from the beginning. We use the CO2 stop as a starting point that was published in 2014, but some of the data was for very early, 24, 26. So from this time to now, we have much more data, much more knowledge. We cover more countries. Also during this time, it was reviewed the structure and the database and simplify, as Ceri said. We focus on the base data, ensuring that most of the countries have at least the initial information for feeding the database and for covering all the minimum things that we have selected. And the last one, we have included one other extra topic, that is the storage readiness level, the one that is indicating the maturity of the information that we have. It was not initially thought that it will be included, but along the communication and reviewing the data, and I'm seeing to Maxime, because from the British Geological Survey, she is the one that helped us the most, and the idea comes from her, and she helps to the rest to apply it in the atlas. is really, really a big step on front from the other one.
Thanks, Paula. Quick check with Giovanni and Daniel. How we are doing so far in translating geoscientific knowledge and data into useful, understandable input for the DG? On a scale from 1 to 10. How are we doing so far in translating geoscientific and geological work, data and knowledge into useful input for you guys?
I have to admit that we are quite lucky on that, because since we sit on these very effective structural stakeholders, we tightly collaborate with them, and we also have a lot of feedback from a technical point of view. So we don't we can also rely on JRC whenever we have some questions. So we are not the first translators, let's say, at RTD.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think obviously you have advanced already with storage readiness level incorporation into this. This is a very important step. It's not so much that we need that information in the Commission. It's rather member states, or I would even go to say some of these emitters need that kind of information, because they need to know where are the potentials next to us. And in that context, I think that the work you're doing, and also the digital aspect of it, so the platform itself where the data is an excellent preparation, but not more than that. Actually, it's also really was the inspiration for the geological data provisions that you find in the Net Zero Industry Act regulation, because we saw that there has been a lot of exploration going on in Europe to find hydrocarbons in particular, maybe also geothermal and other things, but also hydrocarbons. And the data is not necessarily publicly available, but it is knowledge known to the public authorities in the member states. And I think it's a great development that we now have the beginning of this atlas, in the sense that we will have a place where this can be pooled together, maybe not physically pooled together, but at least as a reference, phone book type reference. Where then this data can be made actionable again for another purpose. This time not hydrocarbons anymore, but rather storing CO2. And that's also why, and Julie mentioned it, we issued this call on the horizon for the investment storage atlas that was mentioned in the industrial carbon management strategy. And there the idea is to build on what you have here and make it even more actionable for those that want to invest into these kind of infrastructures. And so that's important, that since we have a single market for CO2 somehow already, we have an emissions trading scheme that's the same everywhere. When it comes to capturing CO2, that doesn't change just because it's captured and not direct in emission. So then we need to see that we will need storage sites all over the European Union, and we need you as geological surveys in the member states and working together on the European level to tell where are these potentials and where and how can they be used best. So in that sense, as where we are now, I think at least 8 from 10. And I think as preparation for the next steps, maybe 10 from 10, because we couldn't hope for anything more than having such a good starting point. And hearing already that there are preparations for an answer to that call is of course very good news that I am happy to take back from this meeting today.
Nice, thank you. And Dražen, a couple of weeks ago, Paula shared with you already the database. Can you tell us a bit what you plan to do with it? If it's not confidential.
No, I can tell more about it, but I can't share the results yet. So we received the CO2 storage potential data set, and we are already using it for the running different scenarios related to the optimal CO2 transport network in Europe. And basically, I'm now here, but the scenarios are running there in Petten, where our location is. what we wanted to do is basically use the recent, the most available, most up-to-date data to get insights into how the network could develop. And this is not just for us or for DGs, but it is also for emitters, because they can see where the locations of potential storage sites could be, where the potential network could develop, and they already can plan what to do in the future and what their decarbonization levers could be. Because some of the industries, they have more options, but some sectors, let's say the only solution is CCUS, and they are counting really seriously on CCUS and deployment of CCUS technologies. And what is also important, when they see the data, they can also contribute to the development of CCS regulation in member states, because some member states are ahead, but some member states, they don't have, they are not thinking seriously about CCS.
Thank you, Dražen. I have one last question for Paula and Ceri, then I'd like to open the floor to questions for the audience. I guess within the preparation of the Atlas, you also identify some regional inequality or gaps in data, or maybe the quality level of the data was very different between the different countries. What did you do about it? And is this something that we also should address in the future for like a funding or policy point of view?
I like this last
You
part.
start.
As for funding.
Yeah.
I can start, Ceri. Is real. There are two really big different levels in general in Europe. There are some countries with a really high advance in the knowledge on data, on Atlas, some sites ready for exploration permits or for development, and there are others that it was first time that they prepare or collect the data and think about that, or just at the beginning because they don't have former exploration, oil and gas exploration, former data and so on. What have done? We have been very, very lucky because the countries or the members with higher knowledge, they have shared the knowledge and helped the others through explaining the methodologies, going with them. We prepare workshops, and was very, very nice collaboration and very important collaboration for that. What was this? Okay, Ceri.
So yes, I wanted to comment on harmonizing the data because it's challenging since geology is a natural material. It doesn't fit very nicely into little boxes. So it's really important to try to have a harmonized approach because it's a powerful tool for communicating on the subsurface, and it's a powerful way of creating understanding across Europe of the pan-European opportunities for storage. And I think that's something that's really been achieved through the Atlas, and something that we should be very proud of this first edition and the future editions for the Atlas. So I started in 2000 on CO2 storage. So I've seen this through GESCO, CO2 Stop, the GSEU project, and hopefully the Investment Atlas. So it's been fantastic to watch this growth, to see the data coming in, to see the blank gaps on the map filling in. And I think that harmonization and bringing all of Europe up to a common understanding of the opportunities for the subsurface and how we move that forward is a fantastic piece of work. And I really hope it will support decision makers for CO2 storage, geothermal, and other uses of the subsurface.
Thank you, Ceri. No questions? Then I have another question. One of the drawbacks of renewable energy is that, well, sometimes it's hard to match the demand of electricity, for example, of energy that is needed. Okay, so I mean the good thing of gas, that every time you need gas, you just turn on your stove and then the gas is there. So I mean also storage has an important, energy storage will have an important role toward energy transition. So I'd like to hear from Paula and Ceri if we are doing something about the Atlas about storage, And then from our colleague from the DG, if there is in the plan any activity about remarking the importance of energy storage. Who would like to start? Paula.
The energy storage, the energy geological storage is also included in the atlas, and we will identify the potential for that, starting for the SMAP project and updating.
So I would like to mention the High Stories project as well, which was the first European database on geological storage opportunities for hydrogen, and that will be built on in the Geological Services for Europe map that's currently being worked on. So in future editions, there will be hydrogen storage. And I think the rate at which the interest in hydrogen is growing is fantastic. And I think it can help support the intermittency of renewable energy. So I think it's a really important development. The High Stories project ran until 2023. It ran for 2.5 years. And when it started, there were no pilots for hydrogen storage. By the time we finished, there was, I think, 6 or 7 pilots for hydrogen storage. So I think we see a fantastic explosion of interest. And it's wonderful to see this growth in interest in hydrogen. And I think it's part of our sustainable future and the use of the subsurface.
And Daniel, Giovanni, is this energy storage part of the discussion in your DGs?
Of course it is. Since I'm the policy officer working mainly with a topic from Horizon Europe, Cluster 5, Destination 3 on geothermal energy, my main focus, of course, is on underground heat storage. And we've seen quite a long list of projects in the past addressing research and innovation at different TRL levels in this area. And you can see in the work program 2025 that just be published that we have actually a topic in the second part of Destination 3, the one about grids, which actually addresses underground thermal energy storage in densely populated areas. So it is a very relevant topic for us, and it is actually it is there to stay, I would say.
Thank you, Giovanni.
Yeah, the same. I work in DG CLIMA in the team that runs the Innovation Fund, and with the Innovation Fund we also support innovative, first-of-a-kind energy storage solutions. We don't see enough projects. I'm no expert on it either, but definitely it's part of the equation. And I would say that it's not just energy storage or hydrogen or it's also critical raw materials that we increasingly need to find in Europe rather than importing them. And so I think what's really interesting, I think from my point of view, is that there seems to be a real need for member states, and I know some have done that already, but for every member state to do a rather detailed planning. What can I do where in my subsoil, or what do I have where in my subsoil, and then sort of have an overall view. And I think there the work of Geological Service, I can only imagine that it will become more important in the future than anything else.
Yeah. Thank you, Daniel. I think we have a question here, Renata, and one there as well, coming to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Serge Gessel, TNO. So I have a question for the Commission people, and it's actually, we have this map, which is a snapshot in time, of course, of what we know. Now, hopefully, this will help supporting the development of emerging storage projects, and these projects will create massive amounts of data through monitoring, etc., and it will increase our understanding. So what's the Commission's vision on keeping such kind of information up to date? So we need to constantly renew these kind of maps. And how do you see that in relationship to what the member states should do? Where lies this role, actually?
Should I start? Yeah, very good question. I think in my mind there are two dimensions. One is the interpretation of the data that is existing, which I think this atlas does a lot already for, and as Ceri mentioned, doing that interpretation on a common understanding so that you arrive arrive at the same results when you're looking at the same type of rocks in your respective member states. That's very important. And then I mentioned it already. So in the regulation, the Net Zero Industry Act regulation, any data that was explored in order to mine hydrocarbons needs to become available, publicly available, the moment these sites are announced for decommissioning or decommissioned. That entered into force summer last year. We have asked member states first time towards the end of this year, how are they doing with this? And we will keep asking member states until we have a clear view on this. So that means for me, first there will be hopefully a good chunk of data that will become available that then needs to be interpreted on the same basis, on the same common basis. And then to the extent that in several member states hydrocarbon extraction is supposed to end in a couple of years' time, these sites will have to be decommissioned. Data will become sort of continuously available. And then what I would hope as an outcome from such an investment storage atlas is that other people are interested in investing into exploration of sites where there is no data available, but where there are indications from geological surveys that there is potential or potential in order to do then actually exploration. And we know that at least one member state is already on that path, meaning they know where to look, and they are trying to find some funds to support exploration wells to see if it actually could work, which I think is the way to go in the future, and would keep. Therefore, I hope that sort of the technical, the database infrastructure that you're building is expandable enough and safe enough so that we can, for the long term, continuously add new data to it and make it available to investors and the public.
Thank you, Daniel. Question from the audience there. Hi.
Thank you. Hi. First of all, massive congratulations. This is a great achievement. Emmerich, I'm with the Zero Emissions Platform, ZEP, and we work a lot with the Commission, a lot with the member states as well directly. I was wondering what you, so this goes back now to the team behind this atlas, what sort of communication material you have planned to come with the data set? Because if I've learned anything by working with politicians is that they will not use your data tools. And as great as they are, and I know it is because I've played around a little bit with it as well. So I don't know if you're planning to have some sort of maybe one-page of fact sheets for every country to tell them very simply using those common standards, as you said, Ceri. This is the storage potential you have. This is the actual storage capacity we've identified. These are the projects ongoing. This would be a formidable tool, and that we would be very happy to also share and circulate at ZEP. Thank you.
Well, I can give a quick answer, and then Paula and Ceri, yes, we know, and yes, we do. No, in the sense, last year we had a similar conversation with DG Grow about the critical raw materials data set that we made, and after chats with them, we call this the CRM ebook, which we presenting all our map, and then we also have like one map per commodity, so one by one the view of entire Europe in the sense of continent, not only the member states, of course. And then we also have country maps, really with more detailed information about each country. And it's definitely in our to-do list for the summer to do the ebook for CO2 storage. And as soon as we reach the level 2 for geothermal, as well for geothermal. And then we also have Renata, that our strategic communication officer behind you. So if Renata, you also want to integrate the answer, but she just started, so not yet. But yes, we know, and that is, we were discussing today with Ceri, right? That is a sensible topic. Maybe you can mention what you told me about the discussion about the social science at the CO2 Stop conference in May, that you were having this conversation as well.
Thank you. So yes, from the CO2 GeoNet Open Forum in Venice, we had a whole day looking at the social science supporting CO2 storage, and it's a fantastically it was a topic I was fantastically interested in, because as a scientist, I like the rocks and I deal with the rocks. And when we go to talk to the people, I have to change my language, I have to change the way that I communicate, and I have to speak much more clearly than when I talk to my colleagues, and I talk in detail about the rocks, and to be able to communicate that. And I think it starts with trying to share a vision for the future. This is what we want the future to look like. Is that what the public wants the future to look like? Is this what they want to see? And then to try to think how we get there together, so that it's not me to go to tell people about CO2 storage. It's to try to have a two-way conversation to build trust, to build understanding, and a shared understanding of what the future should look like. So simple communication tools that speak a common language are fantastically important in this. So thank you for bringing this up.
Yeah. Thank you. Chris, I
Maybe
don't
just
believe.
to add on
Oh,
this,
sure.
The reality that we might see and what we need to see is also that CO2 storage will not just happen under the seabed in the North Sea or in other oceans. It will also be onshore. So it will be under the feet of people living in those areas. And I think that's a very important point that Ceri was mentioning. We need trustworthy experts to tell them how that works and where it works and why it works there and not in the neighboring commune. And that's, I think, could be very much helped in the member states discussions from a data set and an atlas that you're preparing here.
Yeah, especially because we are bringing an independent point of view, because we have no...
Exactly.
Because when also related to that, a couple of years back, I was in a conference in Paris, and I was discussing with some colleagues that were indeed engaging conversation with local communities onshore in France. And they were really surprised that it was not enough to tell them that we need to do it for energy transition. So somehow we need to elaborate a bit more on that. Chris has a question. Thank you, Chris.
I did have a question, but it's already been touched upon. I just want to dive a little bit deeper into it, also because it links to the cost element that was mentioned. The map, I'm sure that if you dig a little deeper, you will find these underexplored areas. And these are important, strategically important for Europe, I think, on the longer term. I guess we want to focus on the shorter term now or midterm first. But for some regions or areas, that is really an imminent issue as well. You touched upon one country that's already looking into its subsurface, but how will you motivate countries that are in more difficult position to do that? Because you mentioned the economic aspect that is not very favorable for CO2 storage. So I'm just wondering how we can assist the community in actually focusing also attention, public attention or policy attention to those areas.
Me? Yeah, we have started several things. There is something called National Energy and Climate Plans, where already 2 years ago we asked member states to look into their capacities, so meaning the needs for storage, but also the capacities that they could store. And so I think member states saw that, and quite a number of them actually worked on it. So that's one angle. I think what I like most at this Atlas idea and the way you actually make it available to the public on the web is that now everybody can have a look. And if there is a blank spot, but I'm an emitter in a country, and I might find another map that shows that there is some stone layer that goes across half of Europe and the country is in the middle of it, then I might actually go and ask a question to my government, or I would recommend first go to the geological survey of your country, ask them what they know. And if they don't know anything, or if they know stuff, but it's not digitized yet, it's still sort of offline data, then that's a very important conversation to have on the member state level. Because what Dražen was explaining, the model is also to find out where would transport infrastructures have to be built for CO2, for captured CO2. But transporting CO2 always comes with cost. So the more you can store close by, the better it is for the business case of doing it in the first place. So I think in that sense, we hope that these transparency mechanisms and the fact that with such an atlas, you can inform people what normal people that don't look into the subsoil every day, what capacities can be achieved, or where there is at least a possibility of those, is a good possibility to start a conversation. And then these emitters pay ETS allowances, so that's real money that they have to pay every year. So that's a strong incentive from our point of view.
Thank you, Daniel. Dražen, you hold your microphone because you want to integrate, or you change your mind?
I wanted to just add something with the further development of the CO2 market. There is also a chance for different industries and different countries to create business models for for their companies to produce, let's say, pipelines to their companies to really work on the development of CCUS. So I wouldn't say that for underdeveloped countries it's just a problem. It's also an opportunity for them and their companies. Like Daniel said, companies will need to decarbonize, and they'll need to find a way that's best for them and the cheapest for them, and they'll need to look into it. We are also working on analysis of, for example, regions of EU where, let's say, there are gaps for the future regarding energy supply, energy demand, where they need to build more renewable production. This is also something where they can see their opportunity and get some funding from the EU to get things going.
Thank you, Dražen.
May I just add to that? I thought Dražen picked up a very interesting point around how CCS is developing. So we see, for example, in Denmark that they are conducting new seismic surveys and they are collecting new data to better understand the potential. France is also looking at this. And we see other countries like Austria and Germany that are looking at how they might export CO2 before they develop their own storage in order to be able to meet their climate targets. So things are moving, and these different models for how we can implement CCS and where we store CCS as a truly pan-European enterprise is starting to develop, and I think it's a really exciting time for CO2 storage.
Thank you, Ceri. Stefan and then Philippe.
Thank you. My name is Stefan Guiters. I'm the Chief Digital Officer of the Dutch Geological Survey. And I have a question related to public data. We all know the strength of public data, and data has been public and led to investments definitely in the oil and gas industry. But also in the current political situation, maybe we also should think about that not all the data that we have and need for policy making is necessarily open to everybody else. So are there considerations in the Commission to deal with that in the light of a geological service for Europe?
Maybe I can share our experience, how we are dealing with it at the GRC. So basically, I'm part of the team called Energy and Industry Geography Lab, where we built a platform, online platform that shows hundreds and hundreds of layers of energy, climate, and industry data. And basically, we are aware that we can't share everything. So we have different versions of platform, where we have one that's basically everything that can be shared with the public, and internal one that's basically shared with other colleagues from the Commission, inside Commission. And based on this internal version, we are doing different analysis and providing science-based evidence for policy making and decision making. But definitely, especially now, we are aware that we can't share everything online.
Yeah, maybe when you look at the Net Zero Industry Act regulation, it says make available to the public. That, in our view, is not the same as saying it's on a download site. You can just download it batch-wise to your own computer. It is the make available public is the opposite of keeping confidential for 30 years, which ends with this provision, or 15 or 10 or whatever. And then, yeah, as I said, we have asked member states, how are you progressing with implementing this regulation? Some sent us some links to their maps and data, some not. And we are having a conversation on this. And then we are actually looking, when it comes to CO2 storage, we're looking to exactly this. We do this call for the investment atlas to look into these aspects. I mentioned the yellow pages before. I think it's very good if people can know where data is. It's not the same to actually then have direct input in. Maybe there is a need for actually asking for it, or if the data has been provided by someone who owns it commercially and wants to monetize it, maybe then also to start a negotiation with that person. But to first have an overview where is things is I think very important. And yeah, where we are, we believe it starts where where currently we see emissions. That's where the interest is of finding possibilities to store CO2. That's the areas where you want to see, is there data available somehow, and where you might not actually mind to pay for it, let's say, if you knew what kind of data it is. And if we would have like a data passport that would be developed by such an atlas that says, oh, in this area you can find data with these qualifications, but it's not directly here. There is a paywall. I think that will be a major step forward.
If I may add something, of course it is an Horizon Europe funded project. So of course the principle behind Horizon Europe is as open as possible and as close as necessary. So of course I understand that there is a certain level of public availability of the data produced in this project, which is an agreement, I guess, among the different owners of the data. And when the project is over, it will be a different thing. But at the moment,
thank you, Giovanni. I think we are good.
May I say something about this? Yes. It's just I used to say the same, I know. But when you are talking about the commissioning, means that you have something in production. And if you have data related to the exploration oil and gas, means that you have oil and gas. But there are many regions in Europe that we don't have. Because in our case we don't have, but many regions that don't have oil and gas, they don't have exploration for oil and gas, and they don't have oil and gas in production. And they need also the data. I know that is, but also you mentioned it before, it's just to be sure that it's not only the North Sea and what happened around. Europe is huge, and we have also other realities.
Yeah, so we're talking about building the Europe digital twin of the subsurface everywhere, not only where we already have the data. I think we have Philippe.
Good afternoon, Philippe Dumas from the geothermal sector. 3 points on data. Indeed, congratulations for your map, but we have to agree that you were only dealing with existing available data. One thing on data acquisition from the private sector, when you have return on your investment, you can make it available before you cannot, okay? Maybe what is good for you to know is that 2024 was the record year in number of exploration campaigns on 3D seismic, no, more than 17. And just to tell you, in 6 months, we have already 15 3D seismic campaigns. It was 10 in 2023. So it's exponential growth of data acquisition. The challenge for you will be to integrate in the future. So what is for us, your atlas is a first step, but we need much more in the future to have more data, because indeed what's surprising for us is to see some white spots for geothermal. There's not white spots. We have geothermal technologies to develop geothermal for heating, cooling, electricity everywhere. Now we need to translate your atlas in two things for us, according to our sector. Is on permitting first. No, it's a global challenge to simplify permitting, and you need to translate your map to the permitting authority to have a fast permitting process. First on geothermal heat pumps, I think we need to have these traffic light systems everywhere where you can say that you can drill your shallow geothermal well in a declaration because the rock is fast for that. So you need to translate that to the permitting authority, to the challenge in the next phase. The second phase is financing data acquisition. And here I see two aspects. One, it's hopefully the upcoming European Commission Clean Energy Investment Plan will deal with that. It's public-private partnership. How we have seen the development of really CB campaign is public-private partnership. We need to that. We need to have much more funding. We need to have a leverage of private funding with public data. And without that, we will not be able to do that. So what is your view from the Commission on the future funding of exploration? Because let's be clear, on critical raw material, without drilling, you will not be able to find all the resources in Europe in critical raw material, including geothermal lithium, geothermal potassium, geothermal silica, because you have a lot of critical raw material in geothermal. So how you see this point of financing future data acquisition? And just maybe just to for DigiClim, for information, Innovation Fund last year just funded a geothermal underground thermal energy storage for the Vienna district heating system.
Okay, now he mentioned Innovation Fund, so I can I can say no. Yeah, I think it's really to us it's obvious that for each member state it would be very important to know what they can do in their subsoil. And if they didn't have this, then there is a need to acquire new data. And if that can be coupled with doing a data campaign that maybe has also some real business cases like geothermal or even mining aspects, that's even better. So I think in that sense, I would hope that an atlas like this, and maybe I disagree a bit with the previous speaker from the Zero Emission platform, because my experience is sometimes it works with politicians to put stuff into a map of the place they know best or where they are elected from, better than writing texts, let's say. And I think in this sense also blank spaces can have a healthy impact in the European Union. So I think that's all good to put it onto maps like this.
Yeah. And we did that a couple of times. So when we had some countries that did not provide data, we were coloring them in red. Yeah. And then very quickly after we see the country in red, they provided the data. If there are no other questions, I think it's almost time to wrap it up.
May I say something?
No.
Very fast?
Yes. Yeah, sure, Paula.
It's a very nice exercise that Francesco did, and it's very good. Going through the map, please go in one region and fix what is the SRL, the storage readiness level, in this area. Because most of the parts in Europe is on the level 2 or 3 that is very immature. So have a look around in your area, in your summer area or winter or other country, and think about in the storage readiness level legend, in which level is this area of maturity, immaturity. Because means that we need to invest, collect data, all of these things that we need to do to move to the next level. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. So,
very last question, because I missed it. Sorry, one second. Isabella Nardini from Fraunhofer IG. I'm sorry I came late, so I missed if you are dealing with the private data or not, which are very crucial. Are you going to implement, or are you already under discussion with the companies for that or not?
Right now, we are using the data that we have.
Which
if
are
we
from
have more
geological
data
survey.
from here for
So
next year,
not
it's
under
more than
discussion.
welcome. We offer to collect the data for anyone that can give us.
Because some blank areas, in reality, they're not so blank.
Yeah.
Some
So
few.
let's take these to account. Thank you.
So building on the CO2 Stop Atlas, which used only public data, because we found that this was the best way to build an atlas that we could share with
Perfect.
everybody.
As a father step. Of course.
So, of course, we shared only the public data, and we're very aware that there is a lot of data that we would very much like to see that we don't see because it is held as confidential. So we're very aware
That's why I know.
Yeah,
You're
some
doing a
of
great
these-
job, I know. I'm a supporter.
So some of the blank spots are because there is no data, and some because the data is confidential, and we look forward to the Net Zero Industry Act helping us to fill in those blank spots with more public data. Because through public data we have transparency, we build confidence. So yes, we hope to see more of the blank spots filled in. Thank you.
Just quickly, I can say for clarification.
No, wait, because the people online otherwise don't hear you.
But sorry, just for a point for clarification, Ceri, the blank spaces, is there any distinction between a blank space that confirms there's no information versus a blank space that confirms we don't know, but there might be?
In the current version of the Atlas, no, the blank spaces are the blank spaces, and we focused on the areas where we do have the data that we can share.
Okay.
But it's something that we are discussing in our in the editorial, the AGDI editorial board to make very clear on the map if there is no data or which there is data but we don't have it. So we definitely have to find a way to visualize that. Now, no questions anymore. I'd like to do a last round starting from Ceri and finishing with Paula. So looking ahead, so about following a bit this discussion and all the questions and the slides and the work that you've done. So what is one thing, one action that you would really like to see to emerge, or one collaboration that you have in mind? What you like to see next for the Atlas?
So next, I would like to see the Atlas bringing all of the countries up to a common harmonized level of data availability. That would be my dream. So I would love to see across Europe with none of these blank spaces and the data available to inform decisions about the future.
Thank you, Ceri.
Yeah, I agree. Basically, when we are modeling the network, every blank space and missing data distorts the network. So we are looking forward also to the next update of the Atlas with more and more data.
Thank you, Dražen.
Yeah, I hope that with our Horizon call, we can use this new data from decommissioned sites, make it available, fill some white blanks, and yeah, I hope that we will have good proposals, and in it maybe also proposals that have clever ideas how to incorporate privately generated data from companies that do that, as you mentioned, into the platform, maybe even to become a merchant platform for data users.
Thank you, Daniel.
And from my side, if I had to express a wish for the future, since we are seeing more and more interconnection among different fields, for instance, we are seeing how the point of critical raw materials and geothermal energy are becoming closer, let's say. That is the chemical composition of geothermal brines. I think that there are data which are or might be classified in one of the, let's say, technological topics which could be relevant also for others. So maybe there are some synergies that could be found among different, let's say, technological areas.
Thank you, Giovanni. Paula, great expectation for you to have a final remark.
No, because I'm the last one, I'm copy all of them. Really, if I have to ask for something now, is that the member state have a look on the Atlas in the same way that the Commission have done, and think that is so useful that they are showing us that is for at European level, that they can identify these spot areas, that we need to do more, that all the work that needs to be done, and that we need the member state on the back also pushing.
Thank you, Paula. Thank to all 5 of you. Before I let you go to the drinks and to play with the GDI platform, Julie has a small, Julie didn't know, but now she does. She has a small thought for our 3 guests. Thank you again, all of you. Thanks for attending, and let's continue chatting in the back of the room with some nice drinks as snacks. See you next time.